This is the elect lady, and I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel entitled Present Day Truth for Black America. Today's video is entitled The Disappearance of Black People from World History. The real era of propaganda with Black people mysteriously disappeared entirely from ancient history happened in the 20th century. These scholars have tried to convince people that their generation had nothing to do with the erasure of Black history. They are adamant that the erasure of Black history was a result of 18th and 19th century scholars, but history actually proves something completely different. If you research certain historical books in the 20th century, tell a different version of history than the 19th century. For example, you could find a book in the 19th century that says ancient Egyptians were Black people. However, very few 20th century history books support this claim. You can find a 19th century book that says Moors who dominated and ruled Spain and Portugal for over 700 years were Black and came from Africa. However, a 20th century book says that Moors were Berbers and Arabs from North Africa, no mention that they were Black Moors. Speaking of the 18th and 19th centuries, there were significant laws in place that prohibited Black people from learning to read and write. The fear of educated slaves was a driving force behind these laws, which were rooted in the oppressive system of slavery. These laws, called slave codes, reinforced the belief in white supremacy and the inferiority of African Americans, making literacy a powerful tool for resistance and empowerment. Slave codes were laws enacted in the American colonies and later the states to regulate the lives of enslaved people, treating them as property rather than individuals. During this period when blacks couldn't read or write, white people freely wrote various books about their many exploits as they traveled throughout the continent of Africa. They also documented the well established, highly developed kingdoms, empires, and governmental systems that they saw. To justify the exploration of Africa, during the 1800s, Europe began to slowly build a global narrative that says Africa has no history, Africa has no civilization, Africa contributes nothing to the world, Africa is a place of darkness that need to be saved. This sentiment was expressed in the 1830s by German philosopher George Hegel, who remarked that Africa has no history and did not contribute anything that mankind should enjoy. It has no movement or development to exhibit. This was a calculated strategy to exploit the resources of Africa while enriching Europe. If you can convince the people that they came from nothing, you can justify taking everything from them. It starts with removing their history, thus erasing their identity and their humanity. What the European witnessed in Africa over many centuries contributed to this planned deconstruction of Black history that started shortly after the Berlin Conference in 1884 through 1885 that divided Africa into 54 countries for the financial benefit of various European countries. Some say Black people did not disappear from history. However, we do know that Black people were excluded, minimized, or erased from how history was recorded and taught, especially in the European and American educational systems. Contrary to popular belief, for most of human history, African societies were major centers of trade, science, architecture, religion, and political power. Examples include ancient Egypt, one of the world's longest and lasting civilizations, Mali Empire, known for wealth, scholarship, and cities like Timbuktu, Songhai Empire, a major center of commerce and learning, Kingdom of Kush, ruled parts of the Nile region and even conquered Egypt at one point. Kingdom of Benin, famous for advanced metalwork and urban planning. Unfortunately, the transatlantic and Arab slave trades disrupted societies across Africa and reshaped global history. In many Western textbooks, Black history was often narrowed mainly to slavery and civil rights struggles. That creates the impression that Black people appear only in certain periods instead of being present throughout world history. Historians today increasingly study and teach African civilization before colonization, Black contributions to science, philosophy, literature, and politics, the African diaspora across the Americas, Europe, and the Middle East, and how colonialism affected whose histories were preserved. Writers and scholars like Cheikh Anta Diop John Henry Clark, Chancellor Williams, W.E.B. Du Bois argued that mainstream history often ignored or distorted Africa's role in world development. Whether Black people disappear or whether they were excluded, minimized, or erased, the end result is the same. The real issues that must be addressed are one, who wrote historical records, two, whose perspectives were prioritized, and three, and what educational systems choose to emphasize. There's an old African proverb that says, until the lions have their own historians, tales of the hunt shall always glorify the hunter. On this channel, the historians of the lions are rising up. Family, it's time for the Black community to learn, know, and understand our story. We need to commit to unlearning and relearning history with our contributions and achievements being the priority and being at the forefront. With that in mind, Black America, it's time to wake up. We need to have a real conversation about what's going on in the United States and globally. Things are constantly changing around us. We can see the powers that should not be are pushing for a new norm or a new world order. This channel was created to introduce Black Americans to present day truth so we as a people won't be left in the dark about what's really happening. This knowledge could be the difference between life and death. See you on the inside. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. This is the Elect Lady signing off for now. Thank you.